In Part 1, we saw Vlad the Impaler rise from a hostage prince to a ruler feared across Europe. We saw how he impaled entire armies and even forced the mighty Ottoman Sultan to retreat. But Vlad's greatest enemy wasn't just foreign invaders. It was betrayal from within. And his final chapter would be just as brutal as his reign. After defeating the Sultan's invasion, Vlad's enemies at home began to circle. The nobles he had executed or terrorized never forgave him. And his younger brother, Radu, returned with Ottoman support. The people who once saw Vlad as a savior now lived in fear of his cruelty. His power was slipping, and soon it would be gone. In a shocking twist, Vlad was captured, not by the Ottomans, but by the Hungarians, his supposed allies. Imprisoned for years, he vanished from the stage of history. Whispers spread across Europe about his cruelty, his bloodlust, his inhuman punishments. Pamphlets painted him as a monster who dined among the corpses of the impaled. Some even said he drank blood. These stories traveled faster than armies, and the legend of Dracula began to take shape. Years later, Vlad was released, and once more he seized the throne of Wallachia. But this time, things were different. He no longer had the same power. His enemies were stronger, his support weaker. Still, Vlad refused to rule with mercy. He ruled with fear. And as before, bodies piled up on stakes. In 1476, Vlad faced battle once again. But this time, fate was not on his side. Outnumbered and betrayed, Vlad was struck down. His body left in the dirt, his head severed and sent to the Sultan of the Ottomans as proof. The reign of Vlad the Impaler was over, but death didn't kill his legend. It gave it life. Across Europe, tales of his cruelty grew darker with each retelling. In Germany, pamphlets described him as a bloodthirsty monster. In Russia, he was remembered as a strict but just ruler. And centuries later, an Irish author named Bram Stoker borrowed his infamous nickname, Dracula, for a new kind of monster. The vampire count was born, but behind the fangs and folklore stood the shadow of a real man. So who was Vlad the Impaler? A tyrant? A patriot? A murderer? A defender of his homeland? Maybe he was all of them. What we know for certain is this: his cruelty shook empires, terrified armies, and carved his name into history. And centuries later, we're still talking about him. That was the story of Vlad the Impaler, prince, tyrant, and the man who inspired Dracula. If you thought this was dark, wait until our next episode, where we explore another ruler whose empire drowned in fire and blood. This is Dusk and Times, where history is darker than legend.